The smell of stale coffee and burnt bacon clung to my uniform like a second skin. I'd been on my feet for 11 hours straight, and the fluorescent lights of Joe's diner buzzed overhead with that maddening frequency that made my temples throb. Tuesday nights were supposed to be quiet, the kind of shift where you could catch your breath between the dinner rush and closing time. But tonight felt different. The air itself seemed heavier, charged with something I couldn't name. I wiped down table 7 for the third time, my hands moving on autopilot while my mind wandered to the stack of bills waiting at home. Rent was due in 3 days, and I was short. Again. The tips tonight had been dismal, mostly spare change and crumpled singles from truckers who looked as tired as I felt. My reflection in the window showed a ghost of the girl I used to be, dark circles under my eyes, blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun. The spark that once lived in my green eyes now dimmed to barely an ember. The bell above the door chimed, and I didn't bother looking up immediately. Just another customer, another order, another $1 or $2 if I was lucky. But then the diner went quiet, not the comfortable quiet of a slow night, but the kind of silence that screams danger. The kind that makes prey animals freeze in the grass. I looked up. 3 men walked in, but only one mattered. He moved like water, fluid and inevitable, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. Dark hair swept back from a face carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes so dark they looked black in the harsh lighting, but it wasn't his looks that made my breath catch. It was the aura around him, an invisible force field that screamed power and danger in equal measure. Behind him, 2 men in dark suits flanked the entrance. They didn't sit, they didn't order. They just stood there like sentinels, hands clasped in front of them, eyes constantly scanning. One spoke quietly into his wrist, and I realized he was wearing an earpiece. The man in the charcoal suit chose a booth in the back corner, the one with a clear view of both entrances and no windows behind it. He moved with the economy of someone who'd calculated every step, every angle. As he slid into the seat, I caught a whiff of his cologne, expensive, woodsy, with an undertone of something darker. Leather, maybe, or gunpowder. Emma. Joe's voice cracked from the kitchen window, urgent and low. Table 12. Now. My heart hammered against my ribs as I grabbed a menu and a glass of water. My hands shook slightly, sloshing water over the rim. I was invisible to most customers, just part of the furniture, another tired waitress in a dying diner. But as I approached his table, those obsidian eyes locked onto me with such intensity that I nearly stumbled. Good evening, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. Can I get you something to drink? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied me with the focus of a predator deciding whether I was prey or something else entirely. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable, then unbearable. I was about to repeat myself when he spoke. Coffee. Black. His voice was low, smooth as aged whiskey, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Eastern European, maybe. Russian? I set down the water glass and turned to go, but his next words stopped me cold. What's your name? I glanced back, surprised. Customers didn't usually ask. To them, I was just waitress or honey, or more often than not, invisible. Emma. He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting each syllable. A good name. Classic. Something in the way he said it made my skin prickle. Not with fear exactly, but with awareness, like standing too close to a fire. The heat warning you that one step closer would mean burns you'd never recover from. I hurried back to the coffee station, my pulse racing. Through the serving window, I could see Joe's face, pale and drawn. He jerked his head toward the back office, and I followed his gaze. Tommy Ricci stood there, our night cook, his usually jovial face now taut with fear. He was staring at the man in the booth with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure, undiluted terror. Who is he? I whispered to Joe as I poured the coffee. Alexei Volkov. Joe's voice was barely audible, and his hands trembled as he plated a burger that no one had ordered. Go, serve him. Don't talk unless he talks to you. Don't make eye contact. And for God's sake, Emma, don't do anything to piss him off. The name meant nothing to me, but the fear in Joe's eyes told me everything I needed to know. This man was dangerous. Not just dangerous, he was death wrapped in an expensive suit. I carried the coffee back on a tray that suddenly felt impossibly heavy. As I set it down, being extra careful not to spill, I noticed something on the table, a manila folder, thick with papers, and on top of it, a photograph. My photograph. Not just any photo. It was from my DMV record, clipped to what looked like a background check. My full name, Emma Catherine Walsh. My address, my social security number, my empty bank account balance, everything. The cup rattled against the saucer as I set it down. My hands had gone numb. "You seem surprised," Alexei said, and there was something almost amused in his tone. "Did you think I came here for the coffee?" I don't understand." My voice came out small, childlike. He leaned back, and the leather of the booth creaked. "Sit." It wasn't a request. I glanced toward Joe, who'd gone chalk white, then back at the two guards by the door. One of them gave the slightest shake of his head. A warning. I slid into the seat across from Alexei, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. 3 months ago, he began, his fingers drumming a slow rhythm on the folder. A shipment of mine went missing. $12 million in merchandise. Gone. Vanished like smoke. He paused, took a sip of coffee, never breaking eye contact. The man responsible was Marco DeLuca. You know this name, yes? I shook my head, but even as I did, something cold unfurled in my stomach. Marco. I knew a Marco once, years ago. A charming smile, easy lies, and a baby I'd raised alone after he disappeared. No? Alexei's eyebrow arched. Strange, because Marco DeLuca is the father of your daughter. Lily, age 4, attends Little Sprouts preschool on Maple Street. Favorite color, purple. Allergic to strawberries. The world tilted. My mouth went dry. How do you... I know everything, Emma. He leaned forward, and I smelled that cologne again, now mixed with something more primal. Possession. Marco stole from me. He betrayed me. And for that, there is only one punishment. He's dead, I blurted out. I haven't seen him in 4 years. He left when I was pregnant. I don't know anything about your shipment or your business or... I know. His voice cut through my panic like a blade. Marco died 2 weeks ago. My men found him in a warehouse in New Jersey, and they made sure his death was neither quick nor painless. Horror washed over me in waves. Whatever Marco had been, and he'd been a bastard who'd abandoned us, he didn't deserve that. No one deserved that. But his debt doesn't die with him, Alexei continued. In my world, debts are inherited. Blood for blood. Marco took $12 million from me. Now someone must pay. I don't have $12 million, I said, and the absurdity of the statement almost made me laugh. I didn't have $1,200. I can barely pay rent. I'm nobody. I'm just a waitress. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You sell yourself short, Emma. You're much more valuable than you think. That's when I noticed the other men. They'd entered while I was distracted, moving with the same predatory grace as Alexei. They didn't wear suits. These men were different. Rougher. One had a scar running from his temple to his jaw. Another wore brass knuckles on his right hand, the metal catching the light. These men work for the Calabresi family, Alexei explained, following my gaze. They're Marco's cousins. They believe that if anyone should pay for Marco's sins, it should be them. They've come to negotiate. The scarred man approached our booth, and I caught the scent of cigarettes and something metallic. Blood, maybe. Volkov, he said, his voice gravelly. We had a deal. Marco's slate gets wiped clean in exchange for information about the Kozlov shipment coming through the port next week. You get your revenge on them. We get peace. Everyone wins. Alexei didn't even look at him. His eyes stayed locked on mine. And in that moment, I saw something flicker in their depths. A warning. A message. My hand was resting on the table, inches from his coffee cup. The scarred man was still talking, laying out details of their deal, dates and times and locations. But Alexei's gaze dropped to my hand, then back to my eyes. Deliberate. Intentional. He was telling me something. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. Under the pretense of wiping a non-existent spill, I grabbed a napkin and my pen. My hand moved almost of its own accord, muscle memory from years of taking orders. I wrote quickly, barely glancing down, then folded the napkin and slipped it under Alexei's water glass. The deal is a trap. You're the one they want. I don't know how I knew. Maybe it was the way the scarred man's eyes kept darting to the guards by the door. Maybe it was the tension in the other men's shoulders, like coiled springs ready to snap. Maybe it was just instinct, the same instinct that had kept me alive through years of poverty and struggle, and men who saw me as nothing more than a warm body. But I knew. As surely as I knew my own name, I knew these men hadn't come to negotiate. They'd come to kill. Alexei's hand moved slowly, almost casually, as he reached for the water glass. His fingers brushed mine for half a second, a touch so brief it might have been an accident, except nothing about this man was accidental. He lifted the glass, took a long drink, and when he set it down, the napkin was gone, palmed with the skill of a magician. "Your offer is generous," Alexei said to the scarred man, his voice betraying nothing. "But I'll need more details. Meet me outside in 5 minutes. We'll discuss terms in private." The scarred man smiled, showing gold teeth. "Smart move, Volkov. Real smart." As the Calabresi men filed out, confidence in every step, Alexei's guard moved closer. He leaned down, and Alexei whispered something in rapid Russian. The guard's expression never changed, but he nodded once and touched his earpiece. Then Alexei turned to me, and what I saw in his eyes made my blood freeze. Not anger, not gratitude. Something far more dangerous, interest. "You just saved my life, Emma Catherine Walsh," he said softly. "And in my world, that creates a debt far more binding than money. You belong to me now." Before I could process his words, before I could run or scream or do anything at all, the front window of the diner exploded in a shower of glass. The world became a chaos of sound and sensation. Gunfire erupted like thunder, deafening in the confined space of the diner. I felt Alexei's hand clamp around my wrist with bruising force, yanking me down beneath the table as bullets tore through the air where my head had been seconds before. The vinyl booth seat above us exploded in puffs of foam and fabric. My scream died in my throat, strangled by pure terror. I'd never heard gunfire before, not real gunfire, not the kind that ripped through flesh and bone in dreams. The sharp crack of each shot was followed by the tinkling percussion of breaking glass, the meaty thud of bullets hitting walls, the splintering of wood. "Stay down!" Alexei's voice was sharp, commanding, cutting through my panic. His body covered mine, pressing me flat against the grimy diner floor that smelled of bleach and old grease. He was solid, warm, and in that moment, the only thing standing between me and death. His guards returned fire. The sound was deafening, impossibly loud. I could feel each shot reverberate through the floor, through my bones. Somewhere in the kitchen, Joe was screaming. Glass continued to shatter, the pie display case, the windows, the light fixtures overhead. Darkness descended in patches as the fluorescent tubes exploded. Through the gaps beneath the table, I could see feet. The Calabresi men had taken position outside, using parked cars as cover. Muzzle flashes lit up the night like demonic lightning. One of Alexei's guards went down with a grunt, his body hitting the floor 3 feet from where we huddled. Blood pooled beneath him, black in the dim emergency lighting, spreading like spilled oil. "The kitchen," Alexei said, his mouth close to my ear. His breath was hot against my skin. "When I move, you move, understand?" I couldn't speak, couldn't think. I just nodded, trembling so violently my teeth chattered. "Now!" He hauled me up, his arm an iron band around my waist, and we ran. I stumbled over broken glass, my shoes crunching on shards that glittered like diamonds. Another burst of gunfire followed us, and I felt the heat of a bullet pass so close to my face that it stirred my hair. The wall beside us exploded in a spray of drywall dust. We crashed through the kitchen doors. Tommy was huddled beside the industrial freezer, his arms wrapped around his head, rocking back and forth. Joe was on the phone, his voice high and panicked as he screamed their address to 911. Alexei's remaining guard, the one who'd been at the door, backed through the entrance, firing methodically, buying us seconds. His face was a mask of cold professionalism. No fear, No panic. Just training and lethal efficiency. Dmitri! Alexei barked something in Russian, and the guard nodded, ejecting an empty magazine and slamming in a fresh one with practiced ease. The back door. There was a back door that led to the alley where we took out the trash. I'd used it 1,000 times, propping it open with a brick. During smoke breaks I didn't take because I couldn't afford cigarettes. My mind latched onto this detail, this fragment of normalcy in the nightmare. "There's a back exit," I gasped, pointing with a shaking hand. Alexei's eyes found it immediately, calculating, assessing. He pulled a phone from his jacket, not a regular phone, something sleeker, military-looking, and spoke rapid-fire Russian. Then he grabbed my hand again, and we were moving. The alley was dark, lit only by a single flickering bulb that cast everything in sickly yellow. The smell hit me immediately, rotting garbage, urine, and underneath it all, the coppery tang of blood. Alexei pressed me against the brick wall, his body shielding mine, as Dmitri covered the door we'd just come through. The gunfire inside had stopped. The silence was somehow worse than the chaos. "They'll come through in 30 seconds, Dmitri said in accented English. "We need the car." "It's 3 blocks north," Alexei replied, his voice tight with controlled anger. "We were compromised before we arrived. Someone knew I'd be here." His eyes cut to me, and I saw the question forming, but before he could ask, headlights blazed at the mouth of the alley. An SUV, massive, black, with windows so dark they looked like mirrors, screeched to a halt. The back door flew open. "Boss, now!" We ran. My legs burned, my lungs screamed, but Alexei's hand in mine was an anchor, pulling me forward. Behind us, the diner's back door crashed open. Shouts in Italian, more gunfire, the bullets sparking off the metal dumpster we'd just passed. Dmitri turned, firing back, walking backward with impossible calm. One of the Calabrese men dropped, clutching his leg. Another ducked back inside. I dove into the SUV, Alexei right behind me, and Dmitri threw himself into the front passenger seat. The door wasn't even closed before the driver floored it, and we rocketed forward. The acceleration slammed me back against leather seats so soft they felt like butter. More gunfire. The rear window spider-webbed but didn't shatter. Bulletproof glass. The SUV swerved around a corner hard enough to make my stomach lurch. Then another. Tires squealing. I could hear sirens in the distance, growing closer. Police. Help. Safety. "We can't go to the police," Alexei said, reading my thoughts like they were written on my face. "Those men have officers on their payroll. You'd be dead within an hour." "I don't understand." The words came out broken, choked. Why did you... What just happened?" "You warned me." He was checking himself for wounds with clinical efficiency, running hands over his torso, his arms. Finding nothing, he turned that assessing gaze on me. "Are you hit?" "What?" "Are you hit?" Each word deliberate, patient. I looked down at myself as if seeing my body for the first time. My uniform was torn, covered in dust and God knew what else, but I didn't feel pain, didn't see blood. "No, I don't think so." "Good." He pulled off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. It was warm from his body heat, and smelled like him, that woodsy cologne now mixed with cordite and adrenaline. "Your warning gave me 3 seconds. 3 seconds to alert my men, to position myself, to survive. The Calabrese family set a trap, and you exposed it. I saw the way they were looking at you, at your guards, like they were measuring distances, counting bullets." I wrapped the jacket tighter around myself, suddenly freezing despite the warmth. "I worked in a bad part of town before this. You learn to read people, to spot trouble before it starts, a valuable skill." He was still watching me with that unnerving intensity. "And now you're in danger because of it. The Calabrese family knows you warned me. They saw you pass that napkin, which means they'll assume you're working with me, that you know things about my operation." The reality of it crashed over me like ice water. Lily, my daughter, she was at my neighbor Mrs. Chen's apartment, probably already asleep in her little makeshift bed, clutching her purple stuffed rabbit. Safe. For now. "My daughter," I whispered. "They know where she is. You said you knew about the preschool, her allergy. If you know, they know. Already taken care of. Alexei pulled out that strange phone again, showed me the screen. It was a video feed, grainy but clear enough. Mrs. Chen's living room, and there, sitting on the couch with two men in suits flanking the door, was Mrs. Chen herself, looking terrified, but unharmed. I sent a team the moment the shooting started. Your daughter and your neighbor are being transported to a safe location as we speak. You... Anger flared through the fear. You sent men to take my daughter? Without asking me? To save her life, he interrupted, his voice hard. The Calabrese family doesn't believe in mercy, Emma. They would have gone to her next, taken her to force you to talk, to give up information you don't even have. Then they would have killed you both. The SUV made another sharp turn, and through the window, I caught a glimpse of the city skyline. We were heading downtown, toward the expensive part of the city where people like me never went, unless we were cleaning someone's house or serving their dinner. Where are you taking me? Somewhere safe. One of my properties. He leaned forward, said something in Russian to the driver, who nodded. You'll stay there until I neutralize the threat. Stay there? I pulled the jacket tighter, even though it wasn't cold. I can't just disappear. I have a job, bills, a life. The diner is a crime scene. Joe will tell the police that you were taken during the shooting. Your apartment is being watched by Calabrese soldiers as we speak. If you go back, you die. His tone was matter-of-fact, stating realities like they were weather conditions. Your old life is over, Emma. The moment you slipped that napkin under my glass, everything changed. I wanted to argue, wanted to scream that this wasn't fair, that I was just a waitress trying to survive, that I didn't ask for any of this. But the words died in my throat because I knew he was right. The second I'd written those words, I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. Why did you do it? Alexei asked suddenly. You didn't know me. Had no reason to trust me or care if I lived or died. You could have stayed silent, served your coffee, collected your tip. Instead, you risked everything to warn a stranger. Why? I thought about it, trying to understand my own actions. Those men, the Calabrese family, they looked at you like you were already dead. Like it was done, decided. And maybe you're a bad man. Maybe you've done terrible things. But I met his eyes. Those black depths that revealed nothing and everything. Nobody deserves to be ambushed like that. To die without even knowing it's coming. Something flickered across his face. Not quite a smile, but close. You have a kind heart, Emma Walsh. In my world, kind hearts don't survive long. Then maybe I won't survive, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. But at least I'll know I tried to do the right thing. The SUV pulled up to a building that looked like it belonged in a magazine, all glass and steel, with a doorman in a uniform that probably cost more than my car. The parking garage entrance yawned open automatically, and we descended into fluorescent-lit depths where luxury vehicles lined up like sleeping predators. Dmitri exited first, gun drawn, scanning. The driver did the same. Only when they nodded did Alexei open the door and help me out. His hand was warm, strong, and gentle, in a way that seemed at odds with everything else about him. We took a private elevator, one that required a keycard and a fingerprint scan. Classical music played softly, Vivaldi maybe, as we rose in silence. I watched the numbers climb. 10, 15, 20, 25. The elevator didn't stop until 30, the penthouse level. The doors opened directly into an apartment that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a carpet of light spreading to the horizon. The furniture was minimalist, but clearly expensive, all clean lines and rich materials. Art hung on the walls, pieces I vaguely recognized from museums I'd visited on free admission days, but I barely processed any of it, because standing in the living room, flanked by two female guards who looked like they could break me in half, was Lily. Mommy! She ran to me, her purple pajamas askew, her stuffed rabbit clutched in one hand. I dropped to my knees and caught her, pulling her against me so hard she squeaked. Baby, it's okay. I'm here. I buried my face in her hair, breathing in her familiar scent. Baby shampoo, and the faint sweetness of the apple juice she loved. She was warm, solid, real, safe. "The nice ladies said we're having a sleepover," Lily said, pulling back to look at me with eyes so green they mirrored my own. "Is this our new house? It's really big, Mommy." I looked up at Alexei, who stood framed against those massive windows, backlit by the city lights. In that moment, he looked less like a man and more like a dark angel. Beautiful, powerful, and utterly terrifying. "For now," I told my daughter, smoothing her hair back. "Just for now, sweetheart." But as Alexei's eyes met mine, I saw the truth he didn't need to speak. Nothing about this would be temporary. I had saved his life, and in doing so, I'd bound myself to him in ways I was only beginning to understand. The debt he spoke of wasn't just words. It was a chain, invisible but unbreakable, linking my fate to his. And somewhere in the night, the Calabrese family was planning their revenge. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I didn't recognize, in a bed so soft it felt like floating on clouds. For one disoriented moment, I thought I'd dreamed everything: the gunfire, the blood, the man with eyes like midnight who'd turned my world inside out. Then I heard Lily's laughter drifting from somewhere beyond the bedroom door, and reality crashed back with suffocating weight. The bedroom was enormous, decorated in shades of cream and gold. My clothes from last night, stained and torn, had been replaced with items laid out on a chair. Designer labels I recognized from magazines, a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly rent, jeans that fit perfectly when I pulled them on, like someone had measured me while I slept. That thought made my skin crawl. I found Lily in the kitchen, or what passed for a kitchen in this palace. All marble countertops and gleaming appliances, with a breakfast spread that could have fed 20 people. She sat at the island, swinging her legs, while one of the female guards from last night placed a plate of pancakes in front of her. The woman's severe features softened slightly as Lily beamed up at her. "Mommy, Katya makes pancakes shaped like bunnies, look." The guard, Katya, nodded to me. She was tall, blonde, with the kind of muscle definition that spoke of hours in a gym and maybe a military background. But her eyes, when they met mine, weren't unkind, just watchful, always watchful. "Good morning, Ms. Walsh," she said in lightly accented English. "Mr. Volkov asked me to inform you that he'll return this afternoon. He's handling business related to last night." Business. Such a sanitized word for what was probably violence and bloodshed. "Where's Mrs. Chen?" I asked, pouring myself coffee from a pot that probably cost more than my car. "She was returned to her apartment this morning with compensation for her trouble. Mr. Volkov's men will maintain surveillance on her building to ensure her safety." Katya moved efficiently, clearing dishes, wiping down counters. She was quite concerned about you and the little one. I sank onto a stool beside Lily, watching her demolish pancakes with the single-minded focus only a 4-year-old could achieve. In her world, this was an adventure. A sleepover in a fancy house with nice ladies who made bunny pancakes. She didn't understand that we were prisoners here, protected but trapped, like birds in a gilded cage. The metaphor wasn't lost on me. Last night, Alexei had said I belonged to him now. I'd thought it was just words, dramatic pronouncements born from adrenaline and near-death experience. But looking around at this beautiful prison, at the guards stationed at every exit, I realized he'd meant it literally. "Can we go home today?" Lily asked, syrup coating her chin. "I want to show Bunny my room." "Not today, baby." I wiped her face with a napkin softer than any towel I owned. We're staying here for a little while. It's like a vacation. But what about preschool? Miss Jenny will miss me. I'm sure she will." I forced brightness into my voice, though inside I was calculating. How long could I keep up this charade? How long before Lily started asking harder questions? But sometimes we have to take breaks. It'll be fun, you'll see. The morning crawled by. Katya showed us around the penthouse. 8 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, a home gym, a library with books in at least 4 languages, and that living room with its spectacular view. The building had everything: a pool, a spa, a private movie theater, but every amenity came with guards, every comfort with surveillance. Around noon, my phone, which had somehow survived last night's chaos, began buzzing incessantly. I'd turned it off earlier, afraid to look, but curiosity finally won. 37 missed calls, dozens of texts. Joe, frantic, asking if I was alive. Other waitresses from the diner. My landlord, asking about rent. A few numbers I didn't recognize, and one text that made my blood run cold. We know where you are. We know what you did. There's nowhere Volkov can hide you that we won't find. Tell him to answer our calls or your daughter pays the price. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Katya was beside me instantly, her training evident in the speed of her response. Let me see. She took the phone, read the message, her expression hardening. This number, it's from a burner phone. They likely stole your number from the diner's records. She typed something rapidly on her own device. Mr. Volkov needs to see this immediately. They threatened Lily. My voice came out flat, emotionless. Shock, probably. They threatened my daughter. They're trying to frighten you. Katya's tone was matter-of-fact. But you're safe here. This building has security systems that most government facilities would envy. The Calabrese family is desperate, which makes them dangerous but also sloppy. Lily was in the library, absorbed in a picture book, blissfully unaware. I watched her through the open doorway, memorizing the curve of her cheek, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she concentrated. 4 years old. Her whole life ahead of her. And because I'd tried to do the right thing, because I'd warned a stranger about danger, she was now a target. The elevator chimed. Every guard in the apartment shifted, hands moving toward concealed weapons. But then they relaxed as Alexei stepped out, flanked by Dmitri and another man I didn't recognize. He'd changed clothes, now in a black shirt and dark slacks. But he looked tired. Lines bracketed his mouth that hadn't been there last night. Or maybe I just hadn't noticed them in the chaos. His eyes found mine immediately, and something passed between us. Recognition, maybe, or acknowledgement of the impossible situation we were both trapped in. Emma. He crossed to me, and I caught that scent again, cologne and danger, and something uniquely him. Katya informed me about the text. May I? I handed over my phone, watching as he read. His expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Then he made a call, speaking in rapid Russian. When he hung up, he pocketed my phone. Hey, that's mine. They're tracking it. His tone brooked no argument. Every time you turn it on, they can pinpoint your location within 50 feet. You'll have a new phone within the hour, untraceable, with a number known only to myself and my security team. I can't just disappear. People will worry. Joe knows you're safe. I spoke with him this morning, compensated him for the damage to his diner, and assured him you're under protection. Alexei moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Your landlord has been paid 3 months' rent in advance. Your few personal belongings are being retrieved as we speak and will be brought here. You can't just reorganize my entire life without asking. I can, and I have. He turned, and the intensity in his gaze pinned me in place. Last night, 8 men tried to kill me. 4 of them died. 3 are in the hospital under guard. 1 escaped. The Calabrese family has declared war, and you are now part of that war whether you want to be or not. Because I helped you, bitterness crept into my voice. Because I couldn't just mind my own business. Because you're brave and kind and saw injustice and couldn't let it stand. He moved closer, and I forced myself not to retreat. Those are admirable qualities, Emma. But in my world, they're also dangerous. Then let me go. Let us go. I'll take Lily, and we'll disappear. Change our names, move to another state, and the Calabrese family will find you within a week. His voice was gentle but implacable. They have resources, connections. They'll track every credit card purchase, every job application, every school enrollment. And when they find you, not if, but when, they'll make you watch while they hurt your daughter. Then they'll kill you both, slowly, to send a message to me. The casual certainty with which he described my daughter's torture made me want to vomit, but I also knew he wasn't trying to frighten me. He was stating facts, ugly and brutal, but facts nonetheless. So what do? The question came out broken. Just stay here forever? Let you control everything? No. He was close enough now that I could see flecks of gray in those dark eyes. You let me eliminate the threat. The Calabrese family made a mistake last night. They acted rashly without proper planning. That gives me an advantage. I know who ordered the hit, who financed it, who pulled the trigger. Within a week, they'll be dealt with. Dealt with, I echoed. You mean killed. I mean neutralized. But we both knew what that meant. This is my world, Emma. Violence answered with violence. It's not pretty, not noble, but it's the only language certain people understand. Lily's voice rang out from the library. Mommy, can Katya read me this story about the princess? In a minute, baby, I called back, then lowered my voice. She's 4 years old. She thinks this is a game, an adventure. What happens when she realizes we're prisoners? When she asks why we can't go home? Then you'll explain that sometimes people need protecting, and this is how that happens. Alexei reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was gentle, almost tender, completely at odds with the dangerous man I knew him to be. I won't let anything happen to her, Emma. Or to you. You have my word. The word of a mobster, but there was no heat in it, just exhaustion. The word of a man who keeps his promises. His hand lingered near my face, and I found myself frozen, unable to look away. You saved my life. That creates a bond, a responsibility. In my culture, such debts are sacred. I will protect you and your daughter with every resource I possess, every man under my command, every favor I'm owed. This I swear. There was something hypnotic about his voice, the absolute certainty with which he spoke, like he could reshape reality through sheer force of will. And maybe he could. Men like him, powerful, ruthless, commanding, they didn't ask permission or beg forgiveness. They simply acted, and the world bent to accommodate them. What do you want from me? I whispered. Really want? Because men like you don't do anything without reason. A smile ghosted across his lips. Perceptive. I want several things, Emma. First, I want you safe, because your death would be a stain on my honor. Second, I want the Calabrese family destroyed, because they dared to attack me in a civilian establishment, risking innocent lives. He paused, and something shifted in his expression, something darker, hungrier. And third, I want to understand you. You're a puzzle I can't quite solve. A waitress with dead-end prospects who risks everything for a stranger. That kind of courage is rare, precious. I'm not precious. I'm just extraordinary, he interrupted. You simply don't realize it yet. The moment stretched between us, charged with something I didn't want to name. Then Dmitri cleared his throat from across the room, breaking the spell. Boss, the package from her apartment has arrived. Also, we have confirmation that 3 Calabrese soldiers were spotted near the building. They're still searching. Alexei's demeanor shifted instantly, the brief glimpse of humanity vanishing behind a mask of cold calculation. Increase surveillance. I want eyes on every Calabrese property in the city. If they so much as sneeze wrong, I want to know about it. Already done. Also, Dmitri hesitated. There's been a development. The escaped shooter from last night? His body was found an hour ago in a dumpster in Little Italy. Throat cut. Professional work. The Calabrese family tying up loose ends, Alexei said, his tone thoughtful. They're afraid of what he might say under interrogation. That's good. Fear makes people careless. I listened to them discuss murder and surveillance like they were planning a dinner party, and the surreal quality of my new reality hit me again. 3 days ago, my biggest concern was making rent. Now I was standing in a penthouse worth millions, listening to mobsters plan a war, while my daughter played in the next room. I need to call my daughter, I said abruptly. Tell her a bedtime story. Tuck her in. Some part of normal. Alexei's expression softened. Of course. You're not a prisoner here, Emma. You're a guest. A protected guest, but still. These rooms are yours to use as you wish. A guest who can't leave. A guest who would die if she left, he corrected. There's a difference. But as I walked toward the library, where Lily's laughter mingled with Katya's careful pronunciation of English words, I wondered if that difference mattered at all. Prison or protection, when the doors were locked and guards watched your every move, Did semantics really change anything? That night, after Lily fell asleep in a bedroom bigger than our entire apartment, I stood at those massive windows and stared out at the city. Somewhere down there, people were living normal lives. Going to work, coming home, worrying about ordinary things. And somewhere down there, men with guns were planning how to kill me and my daughter. Behind me, I heard the soft fall of footsteps. I didn't need to turn to know it was Alexei. I'd already learned the particular rhythm of his walk, the way he moved through space like he owned it. "Lily's asleep?" he asked, coming to stand beside me. Finally. She wanted to know when we could go to the park. I laughed, but it came out bitter. I told her soon, lying to my daughter. That's new. Necessary lies to keep her happy and safe. He stood close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. "In a few days, when things settle, I'll arrange for the park, the entire park, reserved for a private event. She can play while my men secure the perimeter." "That's insane. That's my life." He was quiet for a moment. "And now it's yours too. I'm sorry for that." The apology surprised me. "Are you? Really? I'm sorry you were dragged into this world, but I'm not sorry you saved my life." He turned to face me fully. "I've lived a long time surrounded by people who want something from me. Power, money, protection, favors. You're the first person in years who gave me something without asking for anything in return. Maybe I'm just stupid. No." His hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw. "You're everything but stupid, naive perhaps, too trusting, but with a strength you don't even recognize yet." I should have stepped back, should have maintained distance, but I was exhausted, terrified, and drowning in a situation beyond my control. His touch was warm, solid, anchoring, and against all logic, all reason, I leaned into it. "This is crazy," I whispered. "All of this." "Welcome to my world, Emma Walsh," he murmured, "where nothing is simple and everything has a price." Outside, the city sparkled with 10,000 lights, and in the reflection of the glass, I saw us standing together, the waitress and the mobster, bound by blood and violence and a debt neither of us had chosen. Tomorrow, he'd said, he would start dismantling the Calabrese family. Tomorrow, I'd have to figure out how to survive in this new reality. But tonight, just for a moment, I let myself pretend that the warm hand on my face belonged to someone safe, someone good. Even though I knew better. The next 3 days blurred together in a strange cocktail of luxury and terror. Lily adapted with the easy resilience of childhood, treating the penthouse like an elaborate playground. She learned to say good morning in Russian from Katya, ate meals prepared by a chef who appeared twice daily, and spent hours in the library with picture books worth more than I'd earned in a year. I, on the other hand, felt like I was slowly suffocating. Alexei came and went at odd hours, always surrounded by his guards, always with that phone pressed to his ear. Sometimes I'd wake at 3 a.m. to the murmur of Russian in the living room, urgent conversations that ended with sharp commands. He never told me details, but I could read the progression in his face, the tightness around his eyes easing, the set of his shoulders relaxing incrementally. He was winning his war. On the 4th morning, I found him in the kitchen before dawn, staring at a laptop screen with such intensity I almost turned around. But he'd already sensed my presence, looking up with those dark eyes that seemed to see straight through me. "You're awake early," he said, closing the laptop with a decisive click. "Couldn't sleep." I poured coffee, grateful for something to do with my hands. Lily had a nightmare about monsters. Took me an hour to convince her they weren't real. "But they are real." His voice was soft, almost sad. "Just not the kind hiding under beds." I leaned against the counter, wrapping both hands around the warm mug. He looked different in the early morning light filtering through those massive windows. Younger, somehow, though no less dangerous. His shirt was wrinkled, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars, a life written in violence on his skin. "Is it done?" I asked. "The Calabrese family?" "Almost." He stood, moving to pour his own coffee. 3 of their top lieutenants are dead. Their weapon shipments have been intercepted. Their drug operations are in shambles. The family head, Antonio Calabrese, is trapped in his compound in Jersey. watching his empire crumble. He took a sip, eyes never leaving mine. By this time next week, they'll be irrelevant, and the threat to us, neutralized. He set down his cup, moved closer. Antonio's own men are turning on him, offering me information in exchange for mercy. The family is cannibalizing itself. They have no resources left to hunt you. Relief washed through me so powerfully my knees nearly buckled. So we can go home? Something flickered across his face. About that, I need to show you something. He gestured toward the elevator, and despite my better judgment, I followed. We descended to an underground level I hadn't known existed, a parking garage, but different from the one we'd entered that first night. This one was smaller, more secure, with only a handful of vehicles, all black, all expensive, all bulletproof, probably. Dmitri waited beside a SUV, his ever-present stoicism somehow comforting in its consistency. He nodded to Alexei, handed him a tablet, then opened the vehicle door. "Where are we going?" I asked, climbing in when Alexei gestured, to see why going home isn't an option. The drive took 20 minutes through morning traffic. I watched the city pass by through tinted windows, seeing but unseen, protected but isolated. We pulled up across the street from my apartment building, a sagging 3-story structure with peeling paint and a front door that never quite closed all the way. "Look at the second-floor window," Alexei said, handing me a pair of binoculars. "Third from the left." I raised them with shaking hands. My apartment. My home. The window I'd looked through 1,000 times, watching the world go by while Lily played with her toys on the worn carpet. There was a hole in it. Bullet hole, perfectly circular, surrounded by spider-webbed cracks. "They came on the second night," Alexei said quietly. 4 men. They kicked in your door, ransacked the apartment. When they didn't find you, they emptied their magazines into the walls out of frustration. He pulled up photos on the tablet. My home destroyed, furniture overturned, Lily's toys scattered like casualties. Your neighbor, Mrs. Chen, heard everything. She's safe. I have men protecting her. But she's terrified. She asked me to tell you she's sorry she can't watch Lily anymore. I stared at the destruction, at the death of my old life rendered in stark digital images. My throat closed. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "The landlord is evicting you for the damage," Alexei continued, his voice steady while my world collapsed. "Even if the Calabrese threat was gone, you have nowhere to go back to. No home, no job. Joe had to close the diner for repairs and can't afford to keep staff on payroll. No preschool for Lily, because I can't guarantee her safety in a public setting yet. So what am I supposed to do?" The words came out broken, sharp with desperation. Just stay in your penthouse forever? Let you control every aspect of my life? No." He turned to face me fully. "I'm offering you a choice, a real one." I laughed, but it sounded hysterical even to my own ears. "What choice?" "You've systematically eliminated every option I had." "I've eliminated dangerous options," he corrected. "What I'm offering is this: stay with me. Not as a prisoner, not as a kept woman, but as someone under my protection. I'll provide for you and Lily, housing, security, education, anything you need. In return, I ask only that you trust me to keep you safe." "That's not a choice. That's indentured servitude, is it?" His eyes held mine. "You'd have your own space. There's a property I own in Westchester, a house with a yard where Lily could play safely. You'd have a car, a bank account in your name with enough money to be comfortable. You could pursue education, a career, whatever you want. The only requirement is that you accept protection until I'm certain the threat is completely gone. And if I say no, then I'll help you relocate somewhere far from here. New identities, a fresh start. But you'll be on your own. And if the Calabrese family or their allies find you..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I looked back at my destroyed apartment, at the bullet hole that could have been in Lily's head if we'd been home that night. Everything I'd worked for, every sacrifice I'd made to build even this meager life, gone, obliterated in one night of violence that stemmed from my own choice to help a stranger. "Why?" I asked, my voice small. "Why do this? You said the debt was paid, that I saved your life and you protected mine. We're even." "We're not even." He reached out, turned my face toward him with gentle fingers. You gave me something I haven't had in 15 years, Emma. A reason to believe that goodness still exists in this world, that someone can act without ulterior motives, can risk everything for a stranger simply because it's right. His thumb traced my cheekbone, and I shivered. That's worth more than protection. That's worth everything. The intensity in his eyes was overwhelming. Not just desire, though I'd seen that flicker there too in unguarded moments, but something deeper. Reverence almost. Like I was precious. Valuable in a way that had nothing to do with money or power. I don't understand you, I whispered. You're a criminal. You've killed people. Destroyed lives. How can someone like that care about goodness? Because I know exactly what I am, he said simply. I've made peace with my sins, with the blood on my hands, but that doesn't mean I don't recognize purity when I see it, or that I don't want to protect it, even if I can never possess it myself. I'm not pure. I'm just a single mother trying to survive. You're a woman who saw evil and chose to fight it, despite knowing it could destroy you. That's the definition of courage. His hand dropped, and I felt the loss of warmth immediately. Take time to think. There's no rush. The Calabrese threat will be resolved within days, but you're welcome in my home for as long as you need. The drive back was silent. I stared out the window, watching the city morph from my neighborhood, rough, struggling, real, to his world of glass towers and luxury cars. Two different universes, and somehow I'd fallen between them. Lily was eating breakfast when we returned, chattering to Katya about a dream she'd had where she could fly. She looked happy. Safe. She'd never known we were in danger, never knew that men had stood in our apartment and fired bullets into walls where her drawings hung. Mommy! She scrambled down from her chair and launched herself at me. Katya says we might go to the park today. Can we, please? I looked at Alexei, who nodded. The park has been secured. My men have swept it twice. She'll be safe. The park. Such a normal thing. Such an impossible luxury. An entire public space made private. Just so my daughter could play without fear. It should have felt wrong, this display of excessive power. Instead, it felt like a gift. Yes, baby, I said, holding her tight. We can go to the park. Her delighted squeal made something in my chest crack. When was the last time I'd been able to give her something that made her this happy? When was the last time I'd had the resources to do more than barely survive? The park was empty except for us and the shadows. Guards positioned strategically, trying to be invisible but ever present. Lily played on swings that had been recently inspected for safety, slid down slides that had been wiped clean that morning. She ran through grass that someone had manicured to perfection, laughing with pure joy. And I sat on a bench beside Alexei, watching her play, feeling the surreal weight of this new reality. She's happy, he observed, his gaze following Lily's movements with unexpected gentleness. She's 4. She doesn't understand that this isn't normal. Maybe normal is overrated. He leaned back, arms spread along the bench back. His hand was close enough to touch, and I was hyper-aware of the small distance between us. I grew up in poverty in Moscow. Watched my mother work 3 jobs just to keep us fed. Joined the Bratva when I was 14 because it was the only way to survive. He was quiet for a moment. I did terrible things to climb where I am now. Things that would horrify you. But I did them, so I'd never be powerless again. Never have to watch someone I care about suffer because I couldn't protect them. Is that supposed to make me feel better about taking your help? No. It's supposed to help you understand that I know what it's like to struggle, to sacrifice everything for someone you love. You've been doing that for Lily her entire life. Maybe it's time to let someone else carry some of that weight, Lily called out, waving from the top of the climbing structure. I waved back, my heart in my throat at how high she was, how far she could fall. But Katya was there, watchful, ready to catch her if needed. I can't be what you want, I said quietly. I don't belong in your world. I don't want you to be anything other than what you are. His hand moved, covering mine where it rested on the bench. His touch was warm, solid, anchoring. I'm not asking you to be my mistress or my possession. I'm asking you to let me protect you while you figure out what you want your life to be. And if what I want is to leave, Then I'll help you leave, with enough money to start over safely." His fingers tightened slightly, "But I hope you'll stay." There was vulnerability in those words, raw and unexpected from a man who commanded an empire built on violence. It would be so easy to say yes, to let myself fall into this gilded cage he was offering. Lily would have everything: safety, education, opportunities I could never provide alone, and I would have protection, comfort. And maybe, if I was honest with myself, something else. Something that sparked every time Alexei looked at me like I was precious, like I mattered beyond my usefulness. But accepting meant acknowledging that my old life was truly dead, that Emma, the waitress, scraping by on tips and determination, was gone. In her place would be Emma the, what? Ward. Dependent? Something without a name, existing in the space between protection and possession. "I need time," I said finally. Real time to think. Not just days, but weeks. Time to process everything that's happened. "Take all the time you need." He squeezed my hand once, then released it. "The house in Westchester will be ready by next week. Move in, get settled, let Lily adjust. Make your decision when you're ready." Lily ran over then, breathless and flushed with exercise. "Mommy, did you see how high I climbed? Katya says I'm brave." "The bravest," I agreed, pulling her onto my lap despite her wiggling protests. She was getting so big, so fast. Already she was losing that baby softness, becoming a little girl with opinions and dreams and a future I desperately wanted to secure. That night, after Lily fell asleep clutching her rabbit, I stood at those windows again. My reflection stared back, tired eyes, worry lines I didn't used to have, hair that needed cutting. Behind me, the reflection showed Alexei in the doorway, watching me with that intense focus that both thrilled and terrified me. "Penny, for your thoughts," he said softly. "I was thinking about choices," I replied. "How sometimes the right choice and the safe choice aren't the same thing. How sometimes there are no good options, just less terrible ones." He came to stand beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth. "And which is this? Right or safe?" "I don't know yet." I turned to face him, and in the dim light, he looked almost human, not a mobster or a killer, just a man with shadows in his eyes and scars on his soul. "But I'm starting to think maybe they're the same thing. Maybe you're both my greatest danger and my only safety." "A paradox," he murmured, and his hand came up to cut my face. "But then, so are you. Fragile but unbreakable. Innocent but wise. You don't fit into any category I understand. Maybe that's good. Maybe we both need something we don't understand." He leaned closer, and my breath caught. This was a line. A boundary that once crossed would change everything. His lips were inches from mine, his breath warm against my skin. I could smell his cologne, feel the barely leashed power in his body. "Emma," he whispered. My name a question and a prayer, and against all logic, all reason, all my screaming instincts that said this man was danger incarnate, I closed the distance. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning. But then his hand slid into my hair, and mine fisted in his shirt. And gentle became desperate. He tasted like coffee and something darker, something addictive. His body was hard against mine, all muscle and restrained violence, but his touch remained careful, reverent, like I might shatter if he held too tight. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to mine. "This complicates things," I said, voice shaky. "Everything about you complicates things," but he was smiling. A real smile that transformed his face into something beautiful, but I find I don't mind. Outside, the city sparkled. Inside, in this moment between danger and safety, between one life ending and another beginning, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I'd made the right choice after all. Even if I still didn't fully understand what that choice meant, the house in Westchester was nothing like I'd imagined. Not a cold mansion or sterile safe house, but an actual home. Colonial style with blue shutters, a wraparound porch, and a yard big enough for Lily to run wild. Apple trees lined the property, their branches heavy with fruit that would ripen by fall. Through the windows, I could see hardwood floors, a fireplace, rooms filled with natural light. "It's too much," I said for the third time, as Alexei carried boxes from the SUV. His men had retrieved what little survived from my apartment, some clothes, Lily's toys, a few photographs. Everything else was new, purchased without my input, but somehow exactly what I would have chosen. "It's adequate," he replied, setting down a box labeled kitchen in Katya's neat handwriting. He'd rolled up his sleeves against the late August heat, and I tried not to stare at the play of muscles in his forearms. "You and Lily deserve space, safety, a place that's yours. But it's not mine. It's yours." He turned, and something in his expression made my breath catch. "The deed is in your name, Emma. The house, the car in the garage, the bank account, all of it. If you decide tomorrow to disappear, it's all yours to keep or sell as you choose." I stared at him, uncomprehending. "Why would you do that?" "Because I don't want you staying out of obligation or fear." He stepped closer, and even after 2 weeks of stolen kisses and careful touches, my heart still raced when he looked at me like that. Like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. "I want you to stay because you choose to. Because you want to." Before I could respond, Lily's voice rang out from upstairs. "Mommy, my room has a window seat. Come see." The tour of what was apparently now my house took an hour. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, an office I could use for something. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, now that survival wasn't consuming every thought. The kitchen was a chef's dream, all granite counters and professional appliances. Nothing like the hot plate and mini fridge I'd made work for years. By evening, we'd unpacked enough to be functional. Lily fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from exploring every corner of her new domain. I found Alexei on the back porch, watching the sunset over the property. His guards were positioned around the perimeter, discreet but present, a reminder that this peace was maintained through constant vigilance. "Coffee?" I offered, handing him a mug. "Thank you." His fingers brushed mine as he took it, a touch that lingered just long enough to be intentional. "How are you feeling?" "Overwhelmed, grateful, terrified." I sank into the chair beside him, all of it at once. "The Calabresi situation is resolved," he said quietly. "Antonio surrendered yesterday. His family has been absorbed into other organizations or fled the city entirely. The contract on you has been rescinded, witnessed by the commission. You're officially safe." The words should have brought relief. Instead, I felt oddly hollow. "So this is it? Your obligation is fulfilled." "My obligation was fulfilled 2 weeks ago when I neutralized the immediate threat." He set down his mug, turned to face me fully. "Everything since then, this house, the protection, the time together, that's been my choice, not obligation." "Why?" The question that had haunted me since that first night. "I'm nobody. A waitress with a kid and debts and nothing to offer someone like you." "You're wrong." His voice was low, intense. "You offered me something I thought was lost forever. Proof that goodness still exists. That people can act with courage and compassion even when it costs them everything." He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear with fingers that had killed, but touched me with such gentleness. "I've spent 15 years surrounded by people who want something from me. You're the first person who gave without asking for anything in return." I didn't know what I was giving. That makes it more valuable, not less. His hand lingered near my face. "I'm not a good man, Emma. I've done things that would horrify you. Built an empire on violence and fear. But when I'm with you, when I see Lily laugh or watch you create a home from nothing, I remember what I'm protecting, why any of this matters." The vulnerability in his words cracked something open in my chest. This man, this dangerous, powerful, impossible man, was looking at me like I held his salvation in my hands. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," I said softly. "Maybe I should be, but I'm not." "You should be." But he said it with a smile that transformed his face. "I'm obsessed with you, Emma. The way you hum when you cook. How you always check the locks twice before bed. The fierce look in your eyes when you talk about Lily's future. I notice everything about you. And I want more. Always more." That sounds like possession. It is, he admitted without shame. But it's also protection, devotion, worship. I want to give you the world, keep you safe, watch you flourish without the weight of survival crushing you. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. Is that so terrible? It's terrifying, I whispered. Because I want it too, want you. Even though I know I shouldn't, then let yourself want. His lips ghosted over mine, barely a touch. Let yourself have something good for once. The kiss started gentle but quickly deepened. 4 weeks of tension and fear and desperate attraction finally finding release. His hands tangled in my hair. Mine clutched his shoulders. And for a moment, the world narrowed to just this, his taste, his warmth, the solid reality of him against me. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Stay, he said, voice rough, not because you have to, but because you want to. Build a life here. Let me be part of it. I'll give you everything. Safety, comfort, love. All I ask is that you let me. Love? The word hung between us, too big and too fragile. Love, he confirmed. I've been falling since the moment you slipped that napkin under my glass, risking everything to save a stranger. You undid me with one act of courage, Emma Walsh, and I don't want to be put back together. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'm still scared. Of this, of you, of what wanting this might mean. Then be scared, but be scared with me, not alone. He kissed me again, softer this time. Let me prove that you can trust me, that this isn't a cage but a choice you're making freely. 3 months later, on a crisp November afternoon, I stood in that same spot on the porch and watched Lily chase fallen leaves across the lawn. She'd started at a private preschool, one with security that could rival Fort Knox, but felt like a fairy tale. She had friends now, playdates, a life unburdened by the poverty and fear that had marked my own childhood. The diner money I'd saved for years, all $347, sat untouched in my new account, a reminder of who I'd been, but surrounding it was enough money to never worry again, deposited monthly by Alexei with the casual generosity of someone for whom wealth was just numbers on a screen. I'd enrolled in online classes, working toward a degree in early childhood education. Maybe I'd open a preschool someday, create a space where kids like Lily, kids from hard places, could feel safe and valued. Alexei had just nodded when I told him, then donated enough to fund the entire program for a decade. He still came and went at odd hours, still had that phone pressed to his ear, still disappeared for days handling business he never detailed. I didn't ask. Some walls were meant to stand, some boundaries to remain uncrossed. I knew what he was, what he did, and I'd made peace with loving a man who existed in shadows, because I did love him, somewhere between fear and safety. Between captivity and freedom, I'd fallen completely. He was possessive, overprotective, controlling in ways that should have suffocated. But he was also gentle with Lily, patient with my fears, and looked at me every single day like I'd hung the moon. "Mommy, watch," Lily called, attempting a cartwheel that ended in a giggling heap. "Beautiful, baby," I called back, just as arms wrapped around me from behind. "She's getting so big," Alexei murmured against my neck, his warmth seeping into me. "Soon she'll be running the world, with your encouragement probably." I leaned back into him, marveling at how natural this felt. How right. "You spoil her. I spoil you both." His lips found the sensitive spot below my ear. "It's my privilege." Inside, dinner waited. A meal I'd cooked in that dream kitchen, using skills I was finally learning now that cooking wasn't just about survival. Katya had gone home for the day, leaving us truly alone for the first time in weeks. The security system was state-of-the-art, the perimeter secured, but inside these walls, we were just a family. A strange family, built from violence and chance, and one desperate act of courage. But family nonetheless. "I have something for you," Alexei said after dinner, after Lily had been bathed and storied and tucked into bed with her purple rabbit. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and my heart stuttered. "Alexei, it's not what you think," but his smile said otherwise. He opened it to reveal a key, old-fashioned, ornate, clearly valuable. This is the key to my private safe in the city penthouse. Inside are documents, account numbers, property deeds, contact information for my lawyers. Everything you'd need if something happened to me." The casual mention of his mortality made ice flood my veins. "Nothing's going to happen to you, probably not. I'm very careful, and very good at what I do." He pressed the key into my palm, closed my fingers around it. "But I need you to have this. Need to know that you and Lily would be protected, provided for, safe. That's all in there, along with a letter explaining everything. I don't want to think about... I know." He pulled me close, and I buried my face in his chest, breathing in his scent. "But I need you to have it. Need to know that even if the worst happens, I've kept my promise to protect you." We stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet house while autumn wind whispered through the apple trees outside. This life we'd built from ashes and desperation, from one split-second decision to help a stranger, it was imperfect, complicated, balanced on the knife's edge between danger and safety. But it was ours. "I love you," I said into his chest, feeling him tense in surprise. "I should have said it before, should have told you weeks ago, but I'm saying it now. I love you, Alexei Volkov, all of you, shadows and all." His arms tightened until I could barely breathe. "Emma." My name was reverent, broken. "My brave, beautiful Emma. I love you more than I have words for. You and Lily. You're my redemption, my reason, my everything." That night, we made love in the bedroom that was mine but felt like ours, with moonlight streaming through windows that overlooked property we owned together in all but legal paperwork. His touch was reverent, worshipful, like I was something precious he couldn't quite believe he was allowed to have. And maybe I was. Maybe we both were. Two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other, who'd built something beautiful from the wreckage of our old lives. In the morning, I woke to find him already dressed, that phone in his hand, the weight of his empire settling back onto his shoulders. But when he saw me awake, his expression softened, and he leaned down to kiss me with tenderness that belied his reputation. "I have to go to the city," he said. "Business. I'll be back tonight. Be careful." The words were ritual now, prayer and plea combined. "Always." He kissed me again, longer this time. "I have too much to come home to." I watched from the porch as his SUV disappeared down the tree-lined drive, Dmitri at the wheel, guards following in a second vehicle. The familiar clench of fear tried to take hold, but I pushed it back. This was our life now, his dangerous world and my safe haven, forever intertwined. Lily wandered out in her pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Is Alexei gone?" "Just for today." I pulled her onto my lap, this miracle child who'd survived poverty and violence and emerged with her spirit intact. "He'll be back for dinner." "Good." She snuggled against me. "I like it when he's here. He makes you smile, Mommy." "He does," I agreed, kissing the top of her head. "He really does." Across the yard, an apple fell from a tree, red and ripe and perfect. Next summer, we'd make pies from those apples, fill this house with the smell of cinnamon and sugar and home. We'd have barbecues in the backyard, maybe invite some of Lily's new friends and their parents. We'd be normal, or as close to normal as we could manage. And at night, when the house was quiet, and Lily slept safely in her room with the window seat, I'd fall asleep in the arms of a man who'd chosen to protect me when he could have walked away, who'd given me freedom in the form of safety, who'd shown me that sometimes the most dangerous choice is also the bravest. My phone buzzed with a text. "I miss you already. Tonight I'm taking you dancing. Wear something beautiful. A." I smiled, warmth flooding through me. Dancing. Something frivolous and normal and perfect. I texted back, "I'll be ready. Love you." His response was immediate. "I love you more. Always." Lily tugged on my sleeve. "Mommy, can we make pancakes? The bunny kind?" "Of course, baby." I stood, scooping her up despite her protests that she was too big to be carried. "Whatever you want." Inside our home, our real home, built on second chances and impossible choices, we made pancakes shaped like bunnies. And when they were done, golden and perfect, I looked around at this life I'd fallen into and felt nothing but gratitude. I'd walked into a diner for a shift that should have been like any other. Instead, I'd walked into destiny, into a love story written in bullets and blood and fierce protection. I'd saved a man's life, and in doing so, he'd saved mine. Not from death, but from merely surviving. Now finally I was living, and it was more beautiful than I'd ever dared to dream.